Well, it seems to be working now. Can anyone hear me? Let me know if you can hear me. You can hear me. Good. Yay. I have no idea what fixed it. I basically just kept exiting and resetting and then going back and then exiting and then resetting and then I tried Firefox and then I tried resetting and then I went back to Chrome and it kind of worked. This is awful. For every bit of complaining about Hangouts on Air, this is demonstrably worse. So how's it going, man? Let me see what I don't even know what these tools at the bottom are. Like there's an arrow I can click on, but I don't know what it does. And I'm afraid to click on anything because then it's just gonna end the stream, I bet. It was I want to say it's going well, but this is ridiculous. Hey, what's up, Sam? Oh, and Marty. Do I dare? Do I am I brave enough? I'm maybe not brave enough. I'm probably not. Oh, and you got some you're going in on that Amazon stuff, huh? Huh, Andrew? You're gonna let Amazon into your home and record all your stuff? Hey, Fabio, it's working. I hope it's working. It's kind of working. Right now I'm not even getting like on Hangouts we used to have this little it was useless because you couldn't really hear what the audience could hear, but at least they tried to tell you what your levels were for audio. So they have the same thing here where it's 6 dots, but it's not tracking with my voice. So I really don't. I really have no idea if I'm sending a loud enough signal out there. Andrew said I sound fine. I probably sound fine. I don't know why Andrew doesn't have any reason to lie to me. But with the 6 dots, it only shows the green dot and it's just permanently there. So I don't even have like the pop-ups like we used to get on Hangouts on Air. There used to be like a little tab that you could click on to say like transfer to this camera or transfer to this audio. It it didn't work well, but you could sometimes get it to switch over, and I don't have any tools to say use this mic or use this camera. So I basically just had to unplug my Elgato because it only was looking at my Elgato and refused to find my camera. Then I had to disconnect my camera, reconnect my camera. I mean, this is not good. This is really not good. I'm getting anxious and frustrated talking about YouTube. So, if you guys can hear me, I'm assuming you guys can hear me. We have more fun things to talk about than the raging dumpster fire, which is YouTube live streaming. But man, this is not good. Andrew, I am interested in seeing if Mixer is a better solution. I am phenomenally more interested in trying Mixer now to do some of these live streams. Andrew was showing me that apparently they're working on like up to 4-player multi-streaming. So that could be kind of cool. Like you follow my channel on Mixer and it'll like if I have Enabong on again, for example, like it'll just split screen us and then you can see both of us and you could just co-stream that way. Would be way better than what again, this is garbage. This is so bad. So frustrating. So, state of the Patreon. The Patreon is healthy. The Patreon is healthy and increasingly looking at ways that we can diversify, separate ourselves out from YouTube, still keep producing content. The master plan is I've mentioned this in previous live streams. The goal, the big goal is by the end of 2021 to find a way to leave YouTube as the primary distribution. That does not mean I want to completely ignore YouTube. Like, I don't think that's ever going to be a winning strategy. I don't think that's ever going to be a viable business solution. But what I would like to do is find a way to host video on some other public platform. If it's Twitch, okay. But more likely it'll be something not tied to some kind of ticking clock. Like, if you stream something on Twitch, you don't really have any expectation that that's going to be content that lives forever. You might clip out a highlight or something, but no one's going back to watch videos on Twitch. And I don't think I can really change people's minds on that. Sam made it to a PC. Welcome back, Sam. But what might make sense is uploading the full finished videos to a service like archive.org. That'll mean having sort of the financial backing of a community, and then also maybe examining situations for better partnerships and sponsorships and things like that. Maybe I start hawking NordVPN because I'm really not interested in taking money from like Verizon or AT&T. I've told you guys about that, right? The Verizon folks hit me up. So Verizon's PR wing came out. I was like, well, you need to set up an account. And what we really want to do is have you take a look at some of these services. And then like, it was so much jumping through hoops and so many verifications. And then they started talking about like clearing content and are like, you know what? I can't do this. I honestly can't. I can't sit here and take money from Verizon for a video on a Verizon product and how much I love it. And then during my Monday morning podcast, talk about, air my criticisms of like 5G rollout or fiber rollout, or, how companies like Verizon are getting in the way of net neutrality. So it sucks because that probably would have been a pretty good payday, working with VZW. But I'd really like to find other products and services that maybe don't step on those. Like, if I need to start hawking mattresses and bras and food delivery services, fine. But maybe that's the additional solution towards moving away. I want to find something that makes sense for the Patreon community, where it's still a benefit or a perk for those of you who are continuing to support the production directly. I mean, you've literally opened your wallet to help me keep this channel running. So it's not that I just want to take that goodwill and then dump everything public on archive.org, where you could have gotten it for free and there's no reason to support. But that's really going to be the big challenge over the next year and 4 months, is to find the strategy, to find the solution that makes sense for some other type of distribution and for something that continues to pay back or enrich the community on Patreon. Quip toothbrushes. I'm all about that. See, I have what is the model? It's not the Oral-B. Is it the Oral-B? Is it the Scent? I can't remember. I have one of those really, really fancy wireless charging electric toothbrushes, and I flipping love it. I would totally be down to start hawking Quip all over the place. Fabio Bruni, you can do business with McDonald's. So, true story. My daughter has never eaten at a McDonald's. It's not like we've never given her fast food. It's not like that, but we just aren't big fans. So my wife made a joke about like, ew, McDonald's. And my daughter took that literally. And every time we drive by one, and there are a lot of McDonald's out there, she'll be like, mommy, we're driving by a McDonald's. Ew. She's all about getting a cheeseburger at In-N-Out, but she thinks McDonald's is gross. We've never taken her to eat at one. So, yeah, it's McDonald's B&G are pretty good though. What's B&G? I don't know what B&Gs are. Yeah, it's a thing. It's a whole thing. So, That's the long-term goal. I'm gonna probably be writing out some more production diary style posts on Patreon to try and get a sense of how to manage some of that transition. Because I'm probably gonna need some help. I'm not entirely sure what it looks like yet. That's what makes me nervous. Oh, biscuits and gravy. Yeah, the McDonald's sausage biscuit is still good times. I have personally, while traveling, there's something about getting a McDonald's sausage biscuit, whenever I'm at an airport, like, that seems to make sense in my brain. So yeah, the strategizing on that, I'm gonna be asking for a lot of help because, it's that unknown that makes me a little anxious. Uh, I wanna find a good balance. Increasingly, this tonight, a perfect example, like, I can't keep complaining about this stuff and then continuing to turn to YouTube as the de facto single point of distribution for the majority of my content. It's not fair to me how much frustration you have to deal with. And again, it's hilarious. Like, if I need to set up a Pornhub channel, I'll set up a Pornhub channel. And we could talk about gadget porn and it'll be awesome. Oh, the IKEA Swedish meatballs are actually really good too. I don't want this live stream to go too long. Like, I don't want it to be another like 3 hour broadcast like we had for the death of Hangouts. I was really was really stoked to have LFA reviews drop by because it made that entire endeavor a lot more enjoyable. So, getting into just the more near term stuff. Gone through another month. We're still seeing sort of smaller individual growth. The subscriber base has grown quite a bit. This is actually something that makes me kind of happy to see. Obviously, I'm running this as a business, and I would like to make as much money as possible. But I feel like the message has gotten out better. That I really don't have any expectations that my channel should be looked at as like a direct competitor to something like Netflix. So we made less money this last month, but we picked up more subscribers. And that to me, that makes me really happy. Again, I think sort of the monetary value of something like contributing to a Patreon should always be weighed against the insane number of services and subscriptions and feeds and things that we have to pay for. And I really like trying to get that message out there where there's also nothing wrong at all with jumping onto my feed for a month and then letting it go for a couple months and then coming back to check in and see what's new. Getting that message out there seems to be resonating in picking up more traffic. Because it's not just, oh, well, I picked up more subscribers, but they're only paying $1. I'm picking up more people who might kick in $5, but then they don't renew automatically every month. They'll come back, 2 or 3 months later. That seems to be growing. And that to me is a better sign of the health because it's not churn. It's not churn in a traditional sense like like Netflix is very concerned, quarter over quarter when their subscriber numbers dip, and then Jessica Jones comes out and their subscribers rise, and then there's not a major release, and so their numbers fall. That kind of churn, I'm not as concerned about, especially because the economies are totally different when we're talking about a YouTube channel, not Netflix. So really, I think one of the things that I want to work on towards the end of the year is trying to encourage just a bit more conversation, getting more chatter happening in the comments. Patreon comments are kind of a mess. They don't stack very well. So everyone who comes in, it's like we have to teach them individually how to reply so that you don't get just top level comments with people trying to reply to other people, but it's just another top level comment. And that seems to have a chilling effect on good conversation for some of these posts where you'll see someone come in and they're like raring to go and they want to jump in there and they want to chat. And Patreon is just that little bit broken where it doesn't work like how you think it should. Andrew's point, the Patreon app is hot garbage. It is easier to go through the mobile site. I am constantly moving back and forth between the Patreon app, just the immediacy of like getting the notification, and then, oh, well, I can't do that in the Patreon app. Better open Firefox, and it sucks. It sucks really bad. But again, it's really the only system or the only service that I've been able to find for as many issues as we have doing business with an outlet like Patreon. It's still the only place I've been able to set up the same system, the same infrastructure, I should say, and charge as little as possible for it. So, that I'm really not. I By the end of the year, I should be pretty close to actually breaking 100,000 subscribers, even with my sort of attempts at working directly against the YouTube algorithm as much as I can. And even then, I don't think I'm going to fire up the YouTube subscription service. I don't think it's a good way to do business. I think it sets too high a threshold. It will require too much additional work to sort of fulfill why a subscription on my YouTube would be $5 a month as a starting fee. And I'll probably see less of that per subscriber than if I were to, try and sign more people on to the $5 tier on Patreon. So, um, really, I feel like it's going to become increasingly important to try and foster a little bit more of that community conversation. So we'll have to see how that goes down. I think one of the things that might be working against me is myself personally. I might be trying to work too hard to put out too much content. Um, like I have a hard time keeping up with all of this stuff that I need to talk about on social media, which means I could imagine where it might be difficult for someone sort of loosely following me, casually following me on social media to see that I put out, this on Twitch, and then I did this video on YouTube, and then Patreon has this as early access, but then here's a community, or a production diary post, and then I have something written up on the website, but then there's a poll video over here, and I still want you to go in and check out this thing that I made on Newegg, but then don't forget to tune in on Fox when I'm on Good Day LA to talk about TVs. So it's not that I want to reduce, but I want to find better ways that we can manage that workflow and focus some of those conversations just a little bit more, where I'm still going to be putting out a ton of headphone reviews because I fucking love putting out headphone reviews, but I don't feel like it's always the best idea to try and publicize those at the same level as, say, like a camera review. When I finish one of those for a phone, like, I should probably be spending way more time publicizing those, trying to cut up a couple clips from those, definitely sharing the camera conclusions more publicly, more aggressively, and then using that to try and lead more people into conversations and discussion, rather than here's a camera review and I did a little camera conclusion for it, and tomorrow I've got a headphone review, and then the day after that I've got a standing desk, and then the day after that I've got this awesome battery, and then the day after that, but don't forget about the camera review, and then the day after that I've got this really cool ball joint gimbal that you can check out, and then the day after that, but don't forget. It's hard. I think it's really difficult to kind of keep all that straight. So that that's definitely something I think I need to work on. Um, Fabio Bruni, it's true. We are around 400 patrons and just a few of it online. Fat Produce community has always been one of the strongest aspects of the Some Gadget Guy channel. And I feel like that's difficult to maintain. I feel like it's difficult to support when every day I've kind of got two or three things that I want to talk about. And I genuinely don't believe that any one follower could actually watch everything that I'm trying to put out there reasonably. Unless like you were following my channel like a legit, Netflix produced TV show, which you probably should. So I'm going to be working on some ways to try and make that better. I don't know what that's going to look like either. which fills me with anxiety and dread. But a little more focused. This is all coming like we put out the creator chat with Enabong, and the conversation itself is great. Again, I didn't even have to ask him my gimmicky question like, "What advice would you give to a new creator coming up in this space?" Because so much of his natural inclination is to sort of talk about those experiences in a way that I think is already beneficial to people that want to make their own stuff. But of course, as soon as we were off, as soon as we had stopped recording, he and I had like another 45 minutes of just chatting back and forth between the two of us. And I had some things to say about his channel, and he had a lot of things to say about my channel. But I think one of the changes that we're gonna that he pointed to that made a lot of sense, instead of trying to always fully produce videos for every single little thing that crosses my desk, um, I'm not entirely sure how to structure this, but I regularly host a 2 to 2.5 hour podcast, right? Um, I'm thinking, and this is an idea coming from him, and I like it a lot. So I'm gonna float this by you all first. Um, I'm thinking about weekly incorporating some type of hardware block. So we start off with my gimmicky housekeeping, which always takes about 20 minutes. I whittle down news to only two or three of the top stories that I want to focus on. Then we'd go over to something like a hardware block where I can spend 20 minutes breaking down my experiences using some type of product, and then wrap up with more of the sort of phone centric or the hot news for mobile or something like that. I need a sweet jingle. I need my show needs a lot of work. The thing I have down is I can talk for a really long time. Uh, but the some of the technical stuff still needs a little catch up. So something like that I think could make a lot of sense. He brought up like I missed some good opportunities where like during project the Google Stadia announcement, I could have taken my commentary from the podcast and cut that out of the podcast and turned it into a standalone video. Put a little bumper tag, part of the SGGQA podcast, and make it a highlight clip. I could have done the same thing on one of the, on like a phone announcement. When the ROG Phone 2 came out, obviously I didn't have one to play with, but a lot of people started putting out their own reaction style commentary videos. Mine was actually really early. It was just a part of a 2.5 hour podcast. We could have cut that out and made that its own separate piece of commentary too. Like I should have highlighted that on Twitch. I mean, I still could go back and hide, but now it's later and there's a lot less value to that. So instead of fully producing a 4K video on some kind of product, I mean, I'm gonna do a video on these because I love them, but I'm not going to love every single Bluetooth headset that crosses my desk. I could build a review section into the podcast and then have that sort of exist as its own standalone piece of commentary and then cut that out as a clip. So I don't know. I think the podcast could be a little bit more malleable. So I'm not really interested in doing a shorter show. I know there's a lot of people out there talking, well, I mean, you want your podcast to be like an hour. And you're like, I don't. I really like listening to very long form discussion. And especially like when I'm stuck in traffic, I don't like having to try and find 3 podcasts to listen to over the course of a commute. I kind of like following the thread on one really good in-depth conversation or discussion. So I'm not too worried about adding something to it. I'm just trying to find the additional sort of the additional functionality of something like that. And I did reach out to an organization that sort of reps podcasters, and we've had a couple messages shared back and forth. I don't know if I'm really gonna land it, but they might be interested in sort of managing the podcast for advertisers. So the Patreon ad free version will become even a little bit more valuable, where I start doing ad reads live. So during the broadcasting of the podcast, I'd incorporate the ads directly, and then the finished post show, those ads will stay in there. But then for the Patreon version, those ads will get cut out, and so you'll still get the ad free version. It's just right now the Twitch live stream is like I can't build advertisements directly into that unless I'm like a Twitch partner. I'm Twitch affiliate. Twitch partner then gives you the ability to like staple a commercial to the beginning of the stream. But I kind of want to find additional revenue streams. So that would be really nice. It wouldn't be a lot of money because my numbers are just okay. But it would be it's one of those things that is like every little bit would help, and it would take some of the pressure off of finding some of these other solutions for video distribution later on. Um, from Sam, I don't know much about stuff like Stadia. I would love to see that kind of content for a busy workaholic guy like myself. It would be a really compelling block of content to watch. And dude, I love the length of your SGGQA podcast. Thanks, man. Um, Andrew, I'm glad the podcast is long enough for me to catch after my Monday morning traffic meeting. You still need to get a new job, man. Missing the beginning of my podcast every week. You should have quit that job as soon as you found out that it would take you out of commission for my show. So, next topics coming up. Obviously, I've got Xperia One coverage. I've got all of the samples captured for the audio review, and I did my first day of shooting video and photo samples for the camera review. I'm almost done with the OnePlus 7 Pro. We just got another update on the phone, but it didn't seem to do anything to change the camera. So from when I started shooting on the OnePlus 7 Pro back during Computex, I feel like they've calmed down, and this is the camera. The OnePlus 7 Pro now has the camera that they probably should have launched the phone with. But now when I wrap that up, I should be able to really, excuse me, I should be able to finish shooting all of those samples next week. Staple that video all together, hopefully next weekend. From Sam, I have my G8, was looking hard at the Xperia One. Is it worth 645? Oh, here's the comparison: OnePlus 7 Pro versus Xperia One camera battle. Yeah, the 21:9 display is awesome. I'm looking over the early footage shot 21:9 on this camera, and it's interesting. I haven't finalized, like, feels are difficult. The feelings are tricky. So I need to get like night shots done. I'm really anxious to see how these video modes function in low light. Uh Again, it's like Sony gets so much right, but then something like autofocus can still kind of mess you up. So I've got things that I need to play with and kind of futz with a bit, but it it's so unique, and I want more phones like this that are, like, sort of different and special and bring something else to the table than what we've been told is the popular zeitgeist. And it's just a bummer that so many conversations have already been had about this phone. Just like, well, I mean, if you want this one thing, I guess, but you should probably buy a different phone instead. I want something more nuanced than that, because this kind of stuff makes me really excited. Fight for blood. Psh, 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 psh. Marty White, you son of a. How does it feel in the hand? I mean, it feels like really nice in the hand. Like there aren't any poisonous quills I mean, I don't see any rusted like razor blades, bent razor blades. So, it's not going to slice your hand open. That's a nice upgrade. That it feels nice. And especially like when you're holding it, like it seems like it was designed by engineers that have sort of evolved primate style opposable thumb grips. So you too can like kind of hold it in a similar fashion. So that's good. I was watching another like super popular YouTube channel, like where he goes on and he can make a video talking about his tech bag and it gets like 700,000 views. And it's so exhausting listening to someone sort of qualify their opinion and then excuse their opinion and then never actually say anything. That the videos are so long. He was reviewing a gaming laptop and it was so miserable. Yeah, so I mean like this laptop has a higher resolution display and that means that you don't get the 120 hertz. So, I think that's going to be something that gamers aren't really going to enjoy. I mean, if you're a gamer, you probably want that faster screen refresh rate. So like a lot of people are going to be concerned about that. But like I was using it and I kind of got used to it. And maybe it's going to be okay. And maybe for some games, like if you're not playing first person shooters, like that would be all right. But I think gamers really care about like the refresh rate. So instead of the higher resolution display, you should get the lower resolution display, but get the one with the faster refresh rate. But if you're playing something like an exploration game, like it could be okay. I mean, like, is it a pro or a con? What are you doing? And like the middle half of this review was just waffling back and forth because it was like, I'm not going to criticize it because I like, this company sent me a $3,000 gaming laptop to review. And there are fans of this brand that will call me a hater, but it's also like, I don't like it. What is my opinion of Painfully Honest Tech's approach to video topics? I don't want to talk about Painfully Honest Tech. If I say anything about Jason, he'll make a video about whether or not you can trust me. I don't want to do that. Nobody wants that. What, Andrew? Why are you trying to start drama? From Sam. He's kind of like the comic that constantly goes in the audience for bits. Again, there are some comics that they've got really good. They can work the crowd. Working the crowd is a very special skill, but a lot of hacks will like, so where are you from? Are you two dating? I mean, you're like, she's out of your league, bro. um, I don't know. I prefer sort of sitting back and criticizing from afar, especially when it's more about general trends. Um, like I think Jason has found a niche of commentary and a style of commentary that is working very well for the current implementation of the YouTube algorithm, and that is not something that will work for me, and it's not something I particularly enjoy. um, it's something I like Jason and I actually really like talking to Jason, but it's the style of those types of can you trust or the drama dance videos, the like, oh, you can skip Samsung this year, where I feel like again, Annabong talked about this a lot during our creator chat, that it's like to make the videos you want to make, it's like you have to satisfy the algorithm with some sort of weekly offering of popularity. And if you don't, then your channel is punished for not being popular enough. And then you fall further out of recommendations and search and SEO, unless you're like every other video is about Apple or every other video is about Samsung. And if you're doing that, well, then you're search relevant. Then you're doing a good job. And I can't do that. I really don't want to do that. I would hate my life if I had to play that game. Um, So I'm not gonna go and do 5 videos about the Galaxy Note 10 because I'm probably not gonna cover the Galaxy Note 10. If we get word about a Galaxy Active, that is a phone that I feel will be a more interesting commentary on the future of Samsung products, and I will be happy to discuss a ruggedized Samsung offering again when we're all kinda getting tired of glass on glass sandwiches. That to me is a much bigger benefit to the tech community than a Note without a headphone jack. We know what that is. A a Galaxy S10 with an S Pen and no headphone jack. That is not an exciting device to talk about. I'm not gonna have much to say about that device, especially when I really wasn't that impressed with the Galaxy S10. So, if there's an Active, that to me will be something worth revisiting for Samsung. But next up on the docket, I need to finish. I'm so far behind. The OnePlus 7 Pro camera, the Sony Xperia 1 camera stuff. I really want to see what I can do with that hardware. I might even try and shoot a short film for real, not like the guy I talked about on the podcast. I filmed a whole short film on the Xperia 1, but he really didn't because he never edited the short film that he supposedly shot. Um, Fabio, you can do a late review of the Note 9. Oh, Andrew, that's disgusting. So many Note 10 videos and the damn phone isn't even announced yet. Um, yeah, I am not happy about this kind of tech commentary. Again, YouTube has completely weaponized, radicalized the echo chamber effect for this kind of stuff. But I ramble on enough about that kind of stuff in the podcast. So the other thing that just came in, and I have it downstairs. I should have brought it up here. In trying to talk about more mid-ranger fare, T-Mobile's new phone just dropped, the Revelry, and so I'm really looking forward to that because I got the Revel for that cheap phone challenge that TK then flew out of the country, and we haven't been able to finish that. Man, life gets in the way of your plans bad. But I also want to look at what is a current carrier branded $300 phone. It's like $350 phone look like today, because that phone has to do battle against like a Pixel 3a. And I've been very satisfied with the performance of the Pixel 3a. So I'll be curious to see, like, is this something that could help, like disrupt Moto G7s and G8s, like that again, $300 to $400 territory looks a lot more interesting to me. And I got another reply from Asus that I'm still totally on the list. But I think if I'm going to have to buy a phone in the second half of the year, it's not going to be a Samsung. I'm probably not going to play with an iPhone 11, but I do want to try and spend some time with an Asus. So I think that'll be the sort of second half of the year if I have to buy something, play just to kind of wrap us out there. There are a bunch of devices. I want to see if there's not something we can do to try and get some Huawei action here in the United States. We'll eventually get Mate X and Mate 30 Pro stuff coming in. Maybe. I know the Race Point people, they're the PR company that handles Huawei in the United States, just sent me some information on Panasonic. Not that I think Panasonic is going to do another phone. I don't think that's the gig, but they were talking about some other types of ruggedized computing solutions. So there could be some interesting other commentary to follow up on there too. And it wouldn't hurt to look at some more like camera stuff too. I was flirting with the idea of maybe renting a few cameras, uh, like one of the new Fujis, some of the medium format stuff. Just be kind of fun to play with. It, just for myself, that would be kind of fun to play with. So we'll have to see. Um, Yeah, Andrew, Andrew's wondering how the headphone jack on the Zenfone 6 and ROG Phone 2 will turn out. The software control looks like it could be promising. I'm very curious to see because ASUS takes audio seriously on their laptops. Actually, on all of their products, their ASUS takes I know they use the Realtek hardware on their lower end motherboards, but they do some pretty interesting things with the codecs and the tuning so that it's not a miserable experience. And then they were the first, I think, that started incorporating Saber DACs, the ESS DACs, on their high end motherboards. I would hope that I would expect an ROG phone is probably doing pretty well, but I would also hope that a Zen phone isn't punishing to use, that maybe that it's hopefully at least in Galaxy S10 territory. So it's sort of a good middle pack performer. That would be really nice. I mean, so far it's been surprising that I think one of the best non-LG performers I've reviewed so far is the Nokia 9. Um, that what would normally be a really crummy experience, that pass-through dongle, is actually one of the better performers, and it's got a decent high quality DAC and a surprisingly good amp. Nowhere near LG territory, but it outperformed a Galaxy S10. That shouldn't work. Fabio, Panasonic S1. God, I wish Panasonic had not left phones. There were so many good ideas in their in that weird I forget, was it a 1-inch sensor that they put in that thing? I can't remember, but just some refinement, and especially with the power of the hardware we have out today, that thing could have been amazing. I did not see the Nokia 9 teardown, but I wouldn't be surprised that there was a ton of glue, a lot of tape, sticking things together in there with so many cameras and so many individual controllers, and the fact that it's not built like a lot of other premium glass on glass. I would imagine that they probably still had to cut, not you don't want to say it's like cut corners, but they probably had to make some annoying internal design decisions to maintain IP67 with so many cameras, glass on glass, continue keeping wireless charging, and arrive at a slightly lower price point than what sort of a premium tier crazy experiment camera device should resemble. I'll be very frustrated if they release a Nokia 9.1 in 2019. Um, if they release two different Nokia 9s in the space of 1 year, I will not be very happy with that brand. I want to see them support those individual products better, not, well, we couldn't fix the Nokia 9, so here's a new Nokia 9 and maybe this one will be better. I'm really not interested in playing that game. So that's those. I should early next week I should have my e-bike ride. I got to test drive the Fuel Fluid. It's a motor assisted bicycle, which that's going to be pretty awesome. And oh yeah, everyone was sending me the Titan. Was it the Unihertz BlackBerry competitor, the ruggedized QWERTY keyboard phone? I think I had 6 or 7 tweets from people saying, "Hey, this looks like a phone for you to review." I reached out to Unihertz, and they gave me what's your audience size, and will you put it on TV? And I said, like, well, I can't guarantee that we'd produce any segments for it on Fox. I don't really know that that's the type of audience you'd want to find, but I can guarantee reviews here. And then I've been a big fan of small phones. They make phones that are smaller than the Palm, little pocket watch phone. And after I said that, then I haven't gotten any replies from their PR team. So I'd like to play with one, a ruggedized QWERTY keyboard phone in 2019. But I think they're more impressed with the numbers that they can get on something like Unbox Therapy, even though every time they do that, every single time a PR company gives a phone to someone like MKBHD or Lou, they don't realize that all of that exposure is negative for them. You watch that video from Unbox Therapy, and again, he's playing the back and forth like, yeah, I guess if someone knew that they wanted this kind of phone, then they could totally, then they would buy this phone. I mean, if they knew, like, he won't just come out and say, this is a crap phone, don't buy it. But he is dancing through every permutation of saying something akin to that, or giving every reason why you should feel okay buying not that phone. Like, you've already bought a really nice phone. It's good that you bought that phone. It's okay that you didn't buy this phone. And PR reps don't seem to understand that just the hits, the numbers, the number of views doesn't mean that they're getting good exposure. They've basically given that phone to people who will, over hundreds of thousands of views, tell potential customers not to buy that phone. I've had these kinds of conversations with PR strategists in the past, and they still, I mean, they all kind of come back to say the same as like, well, we need to show big numbers. And you're like, your big numbers, the number of eyeballs that you got to see that got to see this phone are now all being conditioned to not buy your product. You don't want big numbers. You want organic growth with a community of people that are going to like your product and then become brand evangelists. You can't go from 0 to 60 instantly. I mean, you can't just pick up and start sprinting. You need to build something first. And again, I think that was part of the reason why Essential had so many problems. Is they played to New York and San Francisco. They never put boots on the ground. They never put together a cohesive advertising strategy. Did I ever tell you that my idea for an Essential brand campaign was the tagline, "That's essential." And then you just have someone out there on a totally clean white cyc, just an empty warehouse space, just pure white, and it just looks as clean as can be. And you have someone out there, probably British, hold up the phone and then talk about, well, what we're looking for is performance and streamlining performance. That's essential. And again, you just wrap every commercial with, we're looking at, a screen to body ratio that maximizes the multimedia experience, minimizing distractions. That's essential. We want to make sure that you're completely up to date with software and security in an age where you live your life out of these devices. Regular updates. That's essential. And you do like 6 of those commercials and then you run them on TV, online, and you've now like linked the brand name Essential with the things about your phone that you are actually claiming are essential. If any of these people think that a Unihertz Titan is gonna find some spark of audience because it was shown on Unbox Therapy and Lou talked shit about it for most of the things that came out of his mouth, they have now signed their death certificate as a brand. They have completely missed the pulse. They have completely underestimated how visceral and how conservative and how angry the tech community can be. And they've become the butt of the joke, and they don't even know that they're the punchline, which is a shame. Yeah. Fat Produce, Linus hurt the Key 2, MKBHD, and what I loved was MKBHD bashing the camera on the Key 2, and then the Key 2 almost won his really super shitty camera showdown. And he had to go out there and make a video explaining to his audience why they were wrong to like the photos they liked. When he set up the test and he showed those photos out, and he even tried, he tried to put the BlackBerry Key 2 up against like a Huawei first as like a big dumb gimme, like, well, obviously the Huawei should be able to beat it. But again, he's not a camera dude. His shots are terrible. His photography is awful for someone who should be trying to talk about the merits of camera technology, and for someone who shoots on a red to make his gadget reviews as cinematic as possible. Um, when it comes to actually using a phone to try and get a shot, dude is not skilled. Um, but that's also what's so frustrating is time and time again, that early common knowledge. Some people came out and said the camera sucked. And so that set the whole tone of the rest of the commentary. They found one thing that they could kill the device over. That's the deal breaker. You don't have the bestest camera. Yeah, sorry. Phone's a no-go, bro. Yeah, can't have that, brah. And now you've got like an army of sycophants that just parrot whatever the popular YouTuber said, repeating the same thing ad nauseum. When if you actually use the phone, it's not the best camera, but it's totally functional. It is perfectly fine in most day-to-day shooting scenarios. Like I've pulled off toddler and action shots on BlackBerry Key 2s. They're fine. It's a totally acceptable camera, especially if you're looking at just sharing on social media, and where you can get into some nuance and you can talk about, oh, well, it lets you down a little in lower light situations. It's not great for this. It does have some issues with that. None of those are really deal breakers. It's just as long as you know that that's what the product is, you can make an informed decision. But that's not really gadget commentary anymore. It's not about educating. It's about just confirming the bias of the audience that's already made you popular. Do you think Linus and Marquez really drive that business decision? God, I really hope not. So it's like that's why I've been making these comments. Like, PR companies are sort of pushing this sort of popular YouTuber reviewer structure. But for the community of people that they're trying to reach by tapping that audience, that well will be soured. That well will be poisoned. But who would have been the evangelists in broader consumer sense to try and get the message out on those types of products? So if you could reach techies and they liked your product, they might talk to their family and friends. They might become evangelists. They might help you spread the word on those products. But that's not really techies today. Gadget enthusiasts don't really do stuff, and they never experiment anymore. It's always just, well, I made the right choice because I bought the brand that's winning. I bought from the popular brand, so so I made the right decision. I keep taking it back. I mean, you look at a product like the Surface, and if the Surface had come from any other company other than Microsoft, it would have died. And it would have died because they would have made the first Surface. They would have been viscerally panned by the tech community at large. And then they probably just would have given up. Like they likely wouldn't have done a Gen 2. But Microsoft had a problem moving from Windows 7 to Windows 10. The whole middle period with Windows 8 was a rough transition for Microsoft, and they couldn't just back away from the hardware side of this because they needed to look at other methods of using Windows, and they needed that data, and they also needed to influence their manufacturing, their hardware partners, to do the things that they needed them to do to make Windows 8 and then later Windows 10 successful. So they had to stick it out. But what did we see? It wasn't gadget enthusiasts that got on board. It was Microsoft dumping copious amounts of money into the ecosystem, pushing from Windows 8 to Windows 10, and then around the third generation of the Surface, they had saturated the laptop media enough that general consumers started taking the Surface more seriously. Like they would go in and see at a Best Buy this thing. They were seeing all of the commercials. They thankfully stopped doing those stupid, I'll dance with my Surface. They had Surface commercials with artists and Surface commercials with cinematographers. And let me show you, you just detach the screen from the keyboard. A MacBook can't do that. Microsoft dominated the discussion on that product, And eventually, general consumers got on board. And because consumers thought it was cool, tech YouTubers started changing their tune about, well, now this is so sophisticated. I went back to the first Surface and, it wasn't as bad as I remembered it being. Yeah. Techies are not futurists anymore. Gadget enthusiasts, especially in an era of YouTube manipulating popularity, they are not forward thinking anymore. They are very sort of reticent to embrace change for stuff like that. And that's what Andrew and Sam, I mean, what you guys are talking about there, have an impact on the organic narrative, and it's like a ripple. You throw a stone into the from the canoe, like a ripple, then throwing an anvil into the canoe. From Andrew, this is the same gallows LG and Sony are standing on, it seems, on YouTube as well, and Sony and LG and HTC too. I mean, we have no idea what HTC's strategy looks like. Motorola gets away with it because they've pivoted towards the entry level and mid range. Like they haven't put anything out there in the premium tier to try and compete against a Galaxy S10. But LG's cardinal sin was they tried. They tried to compete against the Galaxy S10. So they became the perfect showpiece. So a YouTuber could still look like they weren't just sycophantic popularity fanboys. Well, he can deliver tough criticisms. I mean, look at that LG G8 review he did. But really, it was just satisfying the larger audience. Like anyone who outright just panned a G8, like, oh, you should just buy a Galaxy S10, and you didn't really use the phone. And you are incapable of imagining a different type of consumer who might appreciate what an LG can do. Especially when LG software has actually been better than it's ever been in the past, which is a pretty low bar. But I just got the most recent security update and bug fix on the G8, and it's running a little smoother. It's running a little cleaner. No major changes, but there wasn't anything major to fix. Everything was in pretty good working order. So especially for the camera stuff, like that's been working awesome. This most recent update just put a little extra polish on everything, it seems, and got us up to date on security patches. That's pretty special for an LG. Like I don't know what we're supposed to want aside from that. What groundbreaking, exciting difference or change was supposed to happen when no other manufacturer can do that either. But again, that's YouTube and tech. It's always going to be way easier to pick on an underdog and to trash them than it will be to properly build some kind of informed commentary on a device that will not perform as well on YouTube search. So I didn't want to dig into all that again. I ramble on about that stuff way too much. So the e-bike, the e-bike is going to be out early next week. The Sennheiser headset, I should have that out next week. I have some other phone centric videos coming out, but I want to spend a little time also putting together some. I have fun with them. They're easy to produce. I think there's always going to be a need for help and how-to videos that get to the point. Like I don't want to start up how to do this on your PC or how to do this video on your phone and be hit with like an intro graphic, and then you get to like a screen capture of someone's desktop and you can hear their terrible computer fan from their shitty mic, and then they explain the problem and it takes like 5 minutes to explain the problem, and then they start doing the thing, and then it's just a bad screen capture, and then they eventually explain how to fix the problem. So there are a few of those that I kind of want to do because I think I can do them better. But I don't know that I'll have those kinds of things out next week. I have a video shot for a parent's guide to predatory microtransactions, another can of worms that I opened on Twitter as I've been back and forth. So there's a guy, his name's Cynical Alex, and he basically built a YouTube channel talking about how to do good playing gotcha style games like Marvel Future Fight. And I can appreciate he probably doesn't want to see those types of games go away because he's built a YouTube channel being the guru on how to strategize and how to rank up characters and stuff. But he did not seem to appreciate my commentary on how terrible I think those games are. So we shared a few tweets back and forth, but I love that, like, I sent him a link about, this is the most recent scientific study that I could find on kids having problems with gambling after playing games with RNG mechanics and loot boxes. And here's the legislation that politicians are looking at dumping on the video game industry. And there's everything in this community is saying that we don't want games to be built this way. But sure, I'm looking at this too shallow with not enough education on mobile gaming, and that really it's just personal responsibility. That's the big takeaway is you should just be able to restrain yourself and not spend too much money on gambling in video games. That's the problem. Are people not learning how to better manage their finances? And you're like, sure. That's what you want gaming to look like. You want it to be all pay to win nonsense with the worst, most predatory, disgusting microtransactions, because that's what you built your YouTube channel on. Awesome. So I'm going to put out that video. I'm debating whether or not I want to reshoot a piece of it just to shout him out. And you're like, hey, so Cynical Alex hates this game, hates this kind of commentary because he thinks that Disney should teach your kids how to gamble. Marty White, $20,000 well invested. That's the first tweet that kicked it all off, because I put out that tweet, and of course, everyone, there's that like really obnoxious faux libertarian, like, it's never the fault of a corporation. It's never the fault of Disney. It's never the fault of Netmarble. It's never the fault of Google, who all profit ridiculously from breaking their games to force you to engage in random number generating events and slot machine mechanics just to keep up with what the current zeitgeist of the game is. Once the new meta are defined and they're all paywalled, and you've got to like throw your money into a wood chipper to try and stay on the pulse, it's never the company's fault. It's always the consumer should have learned how to better protect their finances. And I just think that's disgusting. I'm never going to agree with that sentiment. I feel it always should be sort of a shared responsibility. We want our community to be healthier. We're going to push back against these types of game mechanics, and we're going to do it ourselves because we don't want people from outside the gaming community to do it for us. I don't want politicians to write laws about what can or can't be in a video game, but I'll support it if the video game industry isn't going to do it themselves. So yeah, I tweeted it out there. It was the recent story in that game that I used to use as a benchmark, and now I'm kind of upset that I've put out so many videos on phones featuring that game. But one of the whales of Marvel Future Fight dumped almost $22,000 over 2 months, trying to get basically just bumped stats for his little Marvel cartoons to fight better. And Netmarble improperly listed where those stats would be useful. And so now the dude is suing Netmarble, which I mean, I think he's got a case. Like, it's not that I just want to hurt Netmarble. It's that they screwed up. They did not handle the situation properly. And you can't say that it's not for an insignificant amount of money, because the dude dropped $20,000 in 2 months. He dropped over $10,000 a month trying to grab these stat boosts, and wasn't able to use them where he thought he should have been able to use them. See, Sam, that's exactly the feeling I feel like we should all have. $22,000, that's asinine and that's just BS. Companies are just awful sometimes. We're talking about a Marvel video game rated teen on Google Play. In what world should we be okay that it's even possible for a family friendly franchise video game owned by Disney to even allow you to spend $10,000 in a month on that game? In no world should that ever be okay. I don't care about arguments about capitalism and whatever people want to do, they should be able to do. I just feel functionally that is worrisome behavior. And at some point, Google or Apple, if he was playing it on an iPad or an iPhone, should have said, "Hey, we've seen some suspicious activity on your account. Are you sure you want to spend more than $10,000 on this phone game, dude?" But they won't. So the thing is, if Marvel Future Fight were rated adults only, and all of your cute little Marvel characters went off and did exactly the same things, but there was a change in the rating so that parents knew there are mechanics in this game which are designed to extract as much money from the player base as possible. This is not an appropriate gameplay mechanic for little kids. We've got great science to show that younger children who engage with loot box and random number generating gameplay grow up more likely to have problems with gambling and addictive behavior. Fine. But it's not rated AO. It's not rated adults only. It's rated T for teen. And we don't let teenagers go and gamble in Vegas, but it's almost exactly the same mechanic, preying on almost exactly the same kind of dopamine hit in the brain. They are exactly the same as far as I'm concerned. But we recognize that we regulate Las Vegas and we regulate slot machines because it's for the public good, not to let companies in Las Vegas run roughshod over the player base there. And we also acknowledge that it's not okay to let kids gamble. But apparently Disney can't figure that out on their own. So if Disney can't figure that out on their own, then we need lawmakers to get involved. And I'd really rather not have old politicians that don't play video games writing laws about video games. But that's the choice we have now. Fat produce. That's why I play mostly pre-2012 games. LOL. I know. See, like Andrew has the opposite problem. He collects all of those good old games. he's got like a platinum account at GOG. Random question: have you ever thought about reviewing desks and or gaming chairs? I have, but after my experience doing the standing desk, it's way too much work, and I have way too little space. Um, Actually, hold on. Let me see. Oh, I don't know if I can do this. I've threaded all of my cabling under the keyboard. But what I was gonna do, can I open this wider? No, that's so if I just kind of pick that up there. So I only have like a 9x9 office. And that's what happens under the desk when I've got too much stuff to review. It's like I literally just have to shove it all onto the floor so I can shoot the next video. And then I've got to reorganize and reset from there. The closet back there behind that mirror is almost stacked floor to ceiling with boxes and equipment and stands and bags and a bookshelf with cables. Excuse me. And then that bookshelf you can see like is kind of filled to the brim. And then I still have stuff stacked in front of it just so that I can kind of manage everything that's going on in there. I refuse to do. I messed up my tripod here. Hold on. Let me see if I can fix that. I got it. I'm gonna tilt this up a little bit. there. And refocus. Hey, that was kind of a fun little office tour, right? I refuse to do like a proper office tour because my office, if I clean it, it doesn't really look like that. It's terrible. So I really haven't gotten into reviewing more. I had some requests for gaming PCs. I don't have anywhere to put them. I'd love to be doing more desks and chairs, but I can't even get this chair out of the office without taking it apart, let alone bringing in another chair to try and shoot video on. And then how do I shoot that video when I can't even like move this desk back out? It's kind of it's kind of a bit too tight. So I'm trying to stick to smaller gadgets, accessories, and like laptops. Like laptops are about as big as I can go right now, and keep reviewing things. Again, this standing desk. I'm really glad I got it. It's not the nicest. It works, but it was also like they didn't want me to send it back. So it was nice to keep it, but now I can't keep reviewing other standing desks because I have nowhere to put them. So let's go ahead and start wrapping this up. I've already sort of talked through some of the things that are coming up. The main thing I would say, I'm going to be trying to put out a few more production diaries over the next couple weeks, and what I'd like to start playing with is getting a little bit more feedback and asking a few more questions on future content, future topics, and then just for folks who have ideas on things that they'd like to see on the channel, trying to embrace a bit more of that from the Patreon side. I feel like I should start devaluing some of that from the YouTube side. If the main goal is to get off of YouTube as primary distribution at the end of next year, then I feel like that system of communication should be in place well before then somewhere else. So even if it's not a Patreon exclusive topic or idea, of trying to do a better job of following the community tab on Patreon, and then also just the individual direct messages that I get on Patreon. That's going to be the primary. I will answer those as aggressively as I can, not always getting sucked into the comment fields in YouTube where I can waste a whole day policing and weeding and muting and banning and replying on YouTube. So and the other component to that being when someone's got a good idea for a video of making a point, and I feel like I can manage this better on Patreon than I can through the insane number of comments that I get on YouTube. But from Patreon saying, "Oh, and the idea for this video came by way of Ben McAwesome over on Patreon. Thank you so much for contributing to this channel and to the production on this channel and for suggesting this idea. Now, Ben had this question where he wanted to know about such and such." So I feel like that might be a better way to also foster a bit more community chatter, especially, and I mean that literally from the community tab on Patreon. So next week, I'm going to have a production diary out about that. And I might make that production diary public. So, and then when I share it on Twitter, when other people can kind of peek in on it, they'll drop comments. But again, it's to try and build some of that. It's to try and build some of that conversation. A good video idea. It's properly credited from patrons on Patreon, and then that just sort of serves to feed back into some of the community topics we were talking about at the beginning of this rambling diatribe on Patreon. So to recap, growth looking very good, numbers looking very good. I am very happy with some of the cycling that we've been seeing. People jumping into the channel, jumping out, coming back. Lots of patrons that come back. That to me makes me very happy. And that my worries on this feeling like some kind of financial burden or hardship mitigated by the fact that people seem to get it, that they don't always have to be subscribed every single month It's okay to take a break. So I'm glad to see that kind of response. Other major takeaway: I freaking hate YouTube webcam. This was an awful experience trying to get this stream up and running. I I really feel like this is gonna be something I'm not going to use. So, I will also happily take suggestions on where else we might be able to host a private stream, a just for patrons stream. So, help me scout some of that stuff out too, because if I have to go through this every time we wanna do a patrons only broadcast, this is gonna be awful. Um, I feel like what I should do is open up the Discord for everybody, and then we could move audio over to Discord, and then I can't participate with instant messengers and live chat. I have to turn off everything during the day, or else I never get any work done. Like it's just a constant, never-ending stream of interruptions. But I feel like Discord might be the place to go um for these types of community style events. I really thought like we could make the Discord more of like a premium tier, but really what it might mean, what might make more sense is making the Discord an entry level tier and then giving higher rewards like moderation tools or something like that. So I need to spend some more time with that because I'm just not as savvy at Discord as I am with other platforms and other services, and that's something I definitely need to catch up on. But that's another idea I think for channel health and channel growth. Um, from Sam, have you ever thought about raising the Patreon cap over $10? I'd be willing to go 15 or even 20. So I think I don't think Patreon has any limit. I have two whales who support at 25 a month. I think you can always go higher, but honestly, and the thing is, like Sam, you've been such an amazing contributor, and I've definitely appreciated the support. And while I'm not going to tell you not to give me more money, um, what I would also recommend is maybe also spreading the wealth a bit. If you know of some other content creators that you think you'd like to support, or um, I'd also I would probably be moved to tears to see like, hey Juan, I couldn't support you this month, but I kicked $5 over to the JDRF or the Wounded Warrior Project, and that would mean just as much to me. Like a donation has been made in your name to the Juvenile Diabetes Research Fund, and I would probably I would probably I'm getting emotional just thinking about that as a hypothetical situation. I'm really tired, so I think it's a good idea to wrap this up right now. Um, so yes, and Sam, if you already support Wounded Warriors, dude, okay, this is water. As soon as this show is over, I'm gonna break out the Don Julio because I need a drink, but I am going to toast to you for supporting a cause that I very much believe in and which has affected numerous members of my family and numerous friends of mine, and has that organization has provided them comfort. So thank you for that. So um, I'm sorry that this was a little more disjointed. Uh, it really did mess me up getting into this live stream, just how difficult it was to get YouTube working and how frustrated I am about all that kind of threw me off just a little bit. But thanks for tuning in. Thanks for joining this live chat, sort of joining this discussion, and be on the lookout for some of those production diaries because I really do need. It's not like, oh, I'd love to hear from you. Like I kind of need some of this strategizing because this next year is going to be the most ambitious year I've faced yet. and it's probably going to come with some of the biggest shifts in how I produce content. And I need a group of people who are going to tell me what's working and what's not. So, constructive criticism, not just talking shit, but constructive criticism will be greatly appreciated just to try and manage what I hope we can pull off. Because I think if we can pull it off, it'll be really cool. I think it'll be very exciting. What makes me anxious is that there's every possibility that it'll totally fail too. So, thank you so much, uh, Andrew, Marty, Sam, and then anyone who catches the stream after the fact, dropping comments and joining some of this discussion. I appreciate that too. And yeah, we'll chat again soon. I kind of like making these sort of at the beginning of the month. I don't know why that feels like I'm planning the month better when these are at the beginning of the month as opposed to at the end of the month. So I'm going to try and stick to that instead of waiting out, getting to the end of the month, and then going, "Oh, I didn't do my state of the Patreon." This seems to work better in my brain. So I'll catch you all for another state of the Patreon the beginning of next month, and then we'll go from there. Okay, Marty, that is absolutely what I'm going to do. I'm going to go have that drink. You all have a good night, good morning, good day, and I will talk to you all soon. You have a kick-ass night too, Andrew. You have a kick-ass night too. Now I'm going to push end stream and let's see if anything explodes. I have no idea. Oh, this makes me so angry. Okay, good night. Goodbye. Good luck.